All right, Johnny, how are you today?
Yeah, good Stu. Like I said last week, another weekend, another puente. In Madrid at least.
Uh, well, yeah, last week there was one on the Monday. Well, this week there was one on the Monday, I think, right?
Yeah, so we had the Monday, and then those of us that live in Madrid, we have the Almudena on Tuesday. So, puente
Yeah, okay,
opportunity
good.
for
So public holidays in in October, November.
November and December, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. A
Not
lot
a
of
bad end to the
holidays.
year.
That's right. Too many. That could be another topic for debate. I had a conversation with somebody on the channel the other day, Ivan. I don't know whether you saw the video, and he said that yeah, a lot of public holidays in Spain, but it all works out to be fairly even in the end, I think.
Yeah, yeah, there are quite a lot. I think they all fall at the end of the year, more or less. That's probably
Yeah,
why
well,
I get the impression.
yeah, the end of the year or spring, basically, I think is
Yeah.
the key times. That's right. You don't really get too many over the summer period because everybody has their summer holidays,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really make much sense to push them in there. But anyway, good. What's on the agenda, Johnny?
Inflation is on the agenda, Stu. Inflation. So
Inflation, 5%.
5% indeed. We've been hearing about it for a while. There's been talk of it in the past, and now it seems to start. Expert predictions, sorry, seem to be coming to fruition.
Yeah.
So yeah, five
Is it
percent.
only in Spain or is it Europe wide?
So 5% is the number for Spain, but I believe I've heard the UK is also around about 5%, and the problems that we'll go on to talk about are not only affecting Spain but also elsewhere in Europe and the rest of the world.
Good. So, what's the situation then with the high inflation? What does it mean?
So it means that prices are essentially going to go up.
Well, they already are basically, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They've been increasing. I read at a rate of about 2% per month, and then September it was about a 4% increase. Yeah, so there was a real spike.
Yeah. Are you seeing this increase when you do the shopping?
I think I have. Yeah, I tend to look at the price of Aquarius bottles as my
Okay.
inflation reference, and I have
Yeah.
noticed the price of Aquarius going up. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that on some food that I bought the other day. I got some food delivered, and I noticed that the price of the one of the main dishes that I get has gone up by €1,
Oof.
um,
Yeah, €1 is a
which is fairly steep. I don't know whether it's due to inflation or whether it's something else, but I did notice that because it was a Thai restaurant that I bought the food from, and they used to give like a container at about 50% full, but they've increased the price by €1, and it was a full container this time. So they're trying to compensate, I think.
Ah, I see. Yeah, that's one way companies deal with it. Another way is they'll keep the price the same, but the quantities or the packaging might
Yeah,
change ever so slightly. Yeah.
that's it. That's it. So inflation's sitting at 5%. This is due to increased energy costs, right?
Increased energy costs and a general increase in demand. Sorry, for raw materials that the supply chain currently can't meet, and it's causing the breakdown of supply chains. Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Good. So where do we go from here?
Well, where is there to go increase in prices? I guess.
Mm.
Something I saw on Facebook the other day was yeah, the way to beat inflation is kind of one way is through investing because investing is somewhat gives you some resistance to inflation because of
Yeah.
course interest rates. I saw that the ECB has no plans to change them anytime soon. So in terms of getting interest from a bank, yeah, it's not gonna. Yeah, your money's not gonna retain its value.
Yeah.
Yeah, investing is probably one of the best ways to protect yourself against
Yeah.
inflation. Yeah.
So what are some things that the government can do to fix inflation? Is there anything they can do if they don't have control of their currency?
Yeah. Well, we've talked about in past episodes how the government has considered, or there's been repeated calls for the government to intervene in the energy market, and they've done so by reducing the VAT rates.
Yeah.
In terms of supply chains, I don't know whether that's really within their hands to be able to do anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, there seems to be a lot of things going wrong at the moment when it comes to the economy. Obviously, we're talking about supply chain problems. We're talking about inflation, and I read today in the paper that the growth that the government had planned is probably going to be nullified by the high inflation. So it's not looking good. No.
Yeah, so that's why I generally try to not read the news unless I'm preparing for these weekly chats. Because
Well,
gets a bit
that's
much
right.
sometimes.
If you don't read the news, the world's perfect, isn't it? That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no problems everywhere. But I think that one of the main stories this week, Johnny, was about the gas pipeline being cut off. Have you read about that?
Yeah, this is related to Russia, no, and how it's the
Oh no,
majority
no,
of.
Algeria.
Yes, the conflict between Morocco and Algeria that
Yeah.
supplies the peninsula. Yeah, that I've also seen. Yeah, yeah.
So apparently there was a pipeline that came from Algeria through Morocco to Spain. That's the one that's been cut off. There's another one that still works, a direct pipeline from Algeria to Spain, but the other one, which is I think was about 40% or something of the gas, don't quote me on that figure, has been cut off. So the government now is planning to get liquefied gas in ships and send it to Spain to make up for that loss. But of course, with the supply crisis, there's also a difficulty getting your hands on one of these tankers at the moment, apparently. So nothing seems to be going right.
Yeah, and it seems like, from my experience at least, a lot of the gas-powered buildings they're older buildings. And although there's obviously a lot of new constructions coming in, they don't make up the large percentage of residencies in Spain.
Yeah.
So
That's right. That's right. I think the government here, I think the Spain also operates on a system where they use a lot of gas to create the other electricity in the grid as well. So that's also going to create problems as well.
Yeah.
So not looking good from an inflation point of view. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else on the topic, John?
Not on this topic, but maybe that's a good point to transition into our next topic, what you said about the government's provisions for GDP growth and economic growth. GDP versus quarter three last year is up 2%. However, it's not at the level that the government was expecting. Neither the quarterly growth versus last year, neither the annual equivalent growth rate is near what the government had hoped for. Yeah. Or experts.
Yeah. Okay. So what was the plan? What did they have planned? 4% or something, was it? Or?
I think it was even as high as 6 or 7% is what Calvino had down.
So the quarter?
For the year, sorry. So,
for the year, okay.
So it was either this year and next year, or next year and the year after that.
Okay.
Was the growth expectations, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Prime Minister came out the other day, Mr. Sanchez, and said that we need to look beyond GDP as a way to talk about whether the economy is going well or not. So putting the typical spin on it, because he is the spin doctor, Mr. Hansen. So he put that spin on it and said, well, GDP is not the way to measure success in the Spanish economy. So I don't know what he meant by that exactly, but trying to take people's attention away from poor GDP growth, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, there's perhaps some truth in both sides, whether it's just a spin that he's put on it. But indeed, there are other factors to measure the economy. But yeah, still, GDP is obviously one of the primary ones, and it's not met the government's growth expectations.
So what does it mean long term then if the economy's not performing?
Yeah, well, for me, it's maybe just a delay in the recovery. Because if we think about it, these figures were probably with the expectation that the situation would have been a lot better by the summer and was kind of the end of it. But we did have a spike at the start of the summer, and we saw lockdowns in the likes of Catalonia, and there's still been some restrictions held throughout the summer. Maybe that's slowed down the growth a little bit, and perhaps perhaps caution elsewhere in Europe for traveling to Spain has maybe slowed it down. Those were the thoughts that came to my head when I was trying to think about why this could be. Yeah.
Could be. All right, good. Anything else?
Not on this topic. So maybe move on to Correos, the post office.
Yeah, what's happening there?
Yeah, they're looking to digitalize their business model. So very interesting. Something, as I was reading this article, that I didn't realize is that I think some of the rural post offices are actually not as up to date as the ones that I've typically been to in Madrid and sometimes in Barcelona, in the big cities, essentially.
Yeah. So digitalize in so they want to what, digitalize the complete business, or what does it mean there?
Yeah, well, there's several things they want to do. So the whole idea behind this is to kind of increase Correos' visibility and become a leader in kind of postal logistics services. So they're trying to digitalize and transform their post logistics system. They want to launch a range of digital products. What digital products, I'm not too sure. And they also want to, as we'll talk about now, is decrease the disparity between post offices in rural areas and urban areas. Yeah.
Because as you said, those ones in the regional areas or the rural areas are still stuck in the past, are they?
Well, that's the impression I get. From what I read, they did a pilot in 7 rural post offices where they fully digitalized them and connected them to the Correos system. And
Yeah.
to me, the fact that they weren't already linked up to the Correos system blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah,
If I'm honest.
stood out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah, well, maybe it is. You know, I mean, I'm not sure where they were coming from to begin with, because obviously we're talking about a semi-state company. Is it Correos? I don't think it's fully. I think it's partially privatized. I'm not sure. I'd have to check, but
Yeah, I'm not too sure as well. But I imagine the government has significant involvement in how it's run.
well, I presume so, because I mean, they still have the, you know, like the public exams for people to work there. So I imagine that there is some connection. So I'm not sure I'm not sure if it's privatized at all, or whether it's 40-50% privatized or whatever. But there must be some type of government involvement, and probably from where they were coming from in the past, you know, means that the digitalisation has been slow, as it tends to be, I think, in a lot of government services. I don't know whether you would agree, but I don't seem to see a lot of things that you can do online except get an appointment and check documents, maybe, you know.
Yeah, well, I have to say I've seen an improvement over the time I have been in Spain. You know, the likes of Hacienda is starting to digitalize a lot of what they do. There's social security as well.
Yeah.
Kind of foreigners office at the police station is yet to make those kind of advances, but you know that kind of makes sense. But yeah, Correos is like as a business that is almost like the backbone of Spain in terms of logistics and the services it provides. It's an important step for them to start digitalizing.
And they have moved into that package delivery aspect as well, haven't they?
Yeah, that's what I understand as well. As part of their expansion of the logistical services. Yeah, perhaps they're going to become like a DHL or a UPS or a FedEx as well. Maybe they'll have that kind of service operating.
Yeah, I think they're trying to work in that direction, because a few things that I have had delivered recently have been brought by Correos instead of one of the other transport companies, for example, like the Seur or the DHL, as you mentioned there. So I think they are trying to compete in that sector.
Yeah. Well, I noticed they have they obviously have city pack kind of lockers and pickup points. Maybe that's going to play a role in kind of the deployment of their their package delivery service.
Yeah, I'm always curious when they say what they mean by the digitalisation of these things. You know, does it mean that they're not going to give you a piece of paper? You know, for example, if they come around to your house and you're not there, and you know, with a package, are they going to leave a paper note anymore, or is that going to become a digital process? You know?
Yeah, it makes it difficult to comment on some of these digitalization articles, because a lot of what I read it's all quite generic. There's no concrete points, so we try to pick out as much as we can and perhaps speculate a bit on what it might mean. But yeah.
Well, I suppose that's what it would mean, because, you know, traditionally if they came to your home and you weren't there, they'd leave a piece of paper, right? So so that's obviously a piece of paper that has to, obviously that's not digital, that's, you know, that's the old system. So maybe there is a way that they can just send a message to your phone, or, you know,
exactly, yeah, or
that would be the digital, or an email, that's it, or you know, some little type of ping system, you know, ping, you've got a I don't know. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you drop a parcel or a letter that's tracked, you can already get the tracking slip by email now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I imagine more measures like this. I think we're at a stage, at least in the digitalization, where the companies that are looking to do it are still laying down the vision of exactly what it means. So perhaps that's why we haven't yet seen concrete steps.
Well, it all comes to because the current government's big plan is to digitalise the entire economy. So obviously these are the companies that have to lead the way, right? Because if the postal service is not leading the way, then how do you expect other companies to do so?
Good point. Interesting point.
Now, I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. All right, good. Anything else, John?
Yeah, that was all for this week, Stu.
All right, that's it. So we'll see what happens, how these companies digitalise themselves, and we'll see if they can bridge that gap between the city postal service and the rural postal service.
We
We'll
will
see.
indeed, yeah.
All right, good speaking to you, Johnny. We'll be in contact.
Likewise, Stu. Speak
All right,
later.
see you later. Good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.